Hello to distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, everyone. Please, may I sincerely welcome you to this Nigerian Union of Journalists, River State Chapter Governorship Debate. There are a few ground rules that we must follow, and would like to present the ground rules to you in the course of this debate. And these ground rules must be strictly adhered to in the course of this debate. Again, we need to emphasize that this debate is being televised live, and we have social media hookups from several platforms. We have several radio stations who will be hooking up live to this media debate. As you can see, this hall has been converted to a mini studio. Hence, moving around will not be allowed. Please kindly note, we will not allow moving around, please. Cameras will go on live, and we'll have cameras rolling. We don't want to see moving heads jumping into the shots. So please, we would advise that you're seated. Secondly, we have two entrances. The main entrance will serve as entrance into the hall, while this other entrance will serve as exit. But we want to limit exit as much as possible so as to allow the cooling system to be effective. Please, the more you sit down, the more you are calm, the cooling system will be effective. We don't want you to fan yourself because it will affect the video quality. We apologize. But again, when you calm down, when you're relaxed, the cooling system will work effectively. At this point, I'll welcome the MC for the ceremony, who's going to be introducing to us more ground rules for the debate, our conduct, and what is expected to us. Once again, esteemed ladies and gentlemen, gentlemen of the press, I welcome you to this NUJ Governorship Debate. Thank you so much. Please let me welcome Mr. Blessing Wikina, who is going to be the masters of ceremony for this event. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I'm not sure I have the clean, velvet voice of Shego, but I will try. On behalf of the Nigerian Union of Journalists, River State Council, and on behalf of the partners for this debate, including Kebet Kache, NUJ Africa London, NUJ Africa London, and Rotary Club of Port Harcourt Echo. We welcome you all. Thank you so much. But meanwhile, ladies and gentlemen, before we continue, I'd like to, we are ready? Okay. I'd like to, before I invite the Nigerian Union of Journalists chairman, I'd like to indicate, you have the national anthem. Please cue national anthem. You have the
They them say this a do or die affair, but we don't want nobody to come scatter ground for here. Vote not fight, that's what we want in this year. In this election time, we want a peaceful atmosphere. Cause when 12 and fight to the grass, they suffer. Innocent people go they run, pick over. North and south go they turn on each other. But instead to fight ourselves, make we fight Ebola. Instead of fighting corruption, making no day. Some people not to do, make Niger no day. And running everywhere. So we see of this sword in the air. No matter what thing happen, them I just don't care. Most of them know they really live for here. They don't come back again this year. But no fear, I hear them say this is a do or die affair. But we don't want nobody to come scatter ground for here. Vote not fight, that's what we wanting this year. In this election time, we want a peaceful atmosphere. Instead of to face politics, not to dance in Shabba. The only thing we concern them, not the rubber. All this complaint, I don't they fed up. We don't travel that lane, see where we end up. So which kind of Niger you want to see? How I want make it be? Share the Niger where things they walk. Guy, join hand to make you know God. The youth of today, we got a very big say. It is our life, it is our future. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Future we bright, a product of peace, not war. Vote, not fight. Election, no be war. Because when you scatter, now you know some people will die. One more. Now super glue, now paradise. Now everything is a big this past. So we use come Nigeria. Thank you very much. The word is enough for the wise. Shine your eyes. They them say this a do or die affair, but we don't want nobody to come scatter ground for here. Vote not fight, that's what we want in this year. In this election time, we want a peaceful atmosphere. Cause when 12 and fight to the grass, they suffer. Innocent people go they run, pick over. North and south go they turn on each other. But instead to fight ourselves, make we fight Ebola. Instead of fighting corruption, making no day. Some people not to do, make Niger no day. And running everywhere. So we see of this sword in the air. No matter what thing happen, them I just don't care. Most of them know they really live for here. They don't come back again this year. But no fear, I hear them say this is a do or die affair. But we don't want nobody to come scatter ground for here. Vote not fight, that's what we wanting this year. In this election time, we want a peaceful atmosphere. Instead of to face politics, not to dance in Shabba. The only thing we concern them, not the rubber. All this complaint, I don't they fed up. We don't travel that lane, see where we end up. So which kind of Niger you want to see? How I want make it be? Share the Niger where things they walk. Guy, join hand to make you know God. The youth of today, we got a very big say. It is our life, it is our future. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Future we bright, a product of peace, not war. Vote, not fight. Election, no be war. Because when you scatter, now you know some people will die. One more. Now super glue, now paradise. Now everything is a big this past. So we use come Nigeria. Thank you very much. The world is enough for the wise. Shine your eyes. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Let them say this a do or die affair, but we don't want nobody to come scatter ground for gear. Vote not fight, that's what we want in this year. In this election time, we want a peaceful atmosphere. Cause when 12 and fight to the grass, they suffer. Innocent people go they run, pick over. North and south go they turn on each other. But instead to fight ourselves, make we fight Ebola. Instead of fighting corruption, making no day. Some people not to do, make Niger no day. Them running and they running and they running everywhere. So we see some discord in the air. No matter what thing happen, them I just don't care. Most of them know they really live for here. They don't come back again this year, but no fear. I hear them say this is a do or die affair, but we don't want nobody to come scatter ground for gear. Vote not fight, that's what we wanting this year. In this election time, we want a peaceful atmosphere. Hey, instead of to face politics, not to dance in Shabba. The only thing we concern them, not the rubber. All this complaint, I don't live fed up. We don't travel that lane, see where we end up. So which can I tell you want to see? How I want make it be? Share the night, how things they walk. Guy, join hand to let you know go. The youth of today, we got a very big say. It is our life. It is our.
Apologize for that technical. Can I use the word that they are using during election? Glitch. I apologize for that technical glitch. Even though we don't use it in the media. But we are good to go now. National anthem. Once again, we'd like to welcome you to the NUJ Press Center. It is the Ernest Colley Press Center of the Nigerian Union of Journalists. This is one place where you are allowed to say what you want to say. You are allowed to hold a view. You are allowed to hold a position, take a position, and you are allowed to say it as decently and as politely as ever. Please, final call, technical crew, get ready. I want to remind us that as soon as the debate starts, that please, from the crowd and from everybody, no applause. Whatever the candidates say, please, no applause. No clapping. And no humming, no other sound. Please kindly put all phones on flight mode or on silence. Shall we now have the national anthem of Nigeria? Let's rise for the national anthem, please. opening prayer. Apart from being a broadcaster, Segun Owolabi is also a pastor.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. Shall we pray? Father, in the name of Jesus Christ, we thank you for these auspicious events at a time like this. And we thank you for the discourse and the wisdom that will be shared. Dear Holy Spirit, we commit everything into your hands, and we declare
societies, representative of the European Union and the international community, NUJ zonal presidents, always around, general managers and media houses, publishers and regional editors, veterans and elders of the Union, NUJ State Council, members, chapter leaders, hard-working organizing committee, accredited journalists, ladies and gentlemen. Permit me to welcome all of you to the House of Liberty. Permit me to welcome all of you to the House of Liberty and Hall of Free Speech as we prepare to carry out our most sacred responsibility, agenda setting. By striving to put this debate together with little or no resources, we have sent a strong signal that the NUJ is prepared to lead journalists in Rivers State in interrogating those aspiring to lead the state in all capacity, starting from governorship candidates. We thus would use what these highly respected patriots will promise today to hold whichever of them that takes over as governor in May 2023. Every year, the NUJ will hold an accountability forum to score the governors along the promises made here tonight and the manifesto submitted to the Rivers people. It will no longer be business as usual because the state and the candidates have committed to open governance and open budget principles. Budgets of the states would have to be subjected to the global best practice, known as budget breakdown, to the media, labor, and civil society. We use this opportunity to draw attention to the urgent need to revitalize Rivers State. Government-owned media outfits into formidable institutions to lead in opinion and information befitting of the status of Rivers State as a leading state in the South-South. We shall be handing a memorandum of request in this direction to each candidate so that such will be looked into from day one of taking over government, whoever it shall be. One of our partners, Cadet Kache, Women Development Organization, will also hand a charter of demand on inclusivity to the candidates. We make bold to say that the NUJ did not contact the political parties or their candidates for funds. Just to keep a level playing ground and remove any iota of suspicion that may taint this exercise as a setup. We only got funding from News Africa London, Cabet Kache, and Rotary Club Port Harcourt, ECHO, to whom we remain eternally grateful. Our teams are ready because this is actually our job. Kindly sit back and enjoy the brain gift of our sons and daughter, and please obey the guidelines as would be dished out by the moderators and panel of interviewers. You are welcome.
It's only the NUJ chairman you can clap for. At least, home advantage. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And what the chairman said that the NUJ never reached out to any of the political parties. However, three corporate bodies, 3 Nigerians came to our aid. And I'd like to invite them 1 minute each to talk to us. I'd like from Cadet Kache, I'd like to invite the Executive Director, Obogowan, MM Okon. If she's here, please put your hands together. At least you can clap for her. If I speak your language, I will say medio, but please. Thank you.
Thank you. All protocols duly observed. My name is Emomokun, as introduced, and I stand here on behalf of Quebec Kase Women Development and Resource Center and our partners. I want to say it is an honor to be part of this history-making event, a forum made possible by the Rivers State branch of the Nigerian Union of Journalists for contenders for the office of the next governor of this great state. Democracy is about participation and collective action by both those who govern and those who are governed. Participation makes democracy very special. Today's debate offers opportunities for women, youths, persons with disability, and local communities to have their concerns tabled before their potential candidates to make way for making wise choices. I congratulate the NUJ for making this possible. As a leader of a community action organization, our interest is in seeking greater attention for inclusion of women, girls, persons living with disability, and vulnerable populations in the programs and policies of the incoming government. The Rivers State government has passed laws to help protect women from violence, which has been on the increase. But more needs to be done. The national gender policy needs to be domesticated in the state and this policy provides guidance on how the state can promote social inclusion, participation of women, and participation of vulnerable population, and on how governance can actually impact on these populations. Also, the National Action Plan on Gender and Climate Change also needs to be adopted at the state and local government levels. This will help to reduce the huge negative impact being experienced by Rivers people and Niger Delta people as a result of devastating combination of climate change manifestations in perennial flooding and high environmental pollution from years of poorly regulated oil and gas activities. Our women and communities must be saved from the accompanying crippling poverty and the current despondency in our communities. We believe that we have champions among the contenders for the office of the governor to help us achieve this. We will be presenting, I don't know when that will be done. We have extracts of the National Gender Policy that we want to hand over to the candidate to help them have social inclusion at the back of their minds for policies, for programs, and everything that the incoming government will set their minds to do. Once again, to NUJ, thank you for giving us the opportunity to be part of this. And I wish all the candidates the best of luck at the polls. Thank you.
Thank you so much. One more time, please. You can clap for her. And from the Rotary Club of Port Harcourt, Echo District 9141. Please kindly come forward. There are 3 of them, remember? Just one more, and I'll let you know why.
May I beg to stand on the already established protocol? My name is Dr. B. Irena Briggs. I am the polio chair of the Rotary Club of Port Harcourt Echo, and I'm standing in for Reverend Davis Okarevo, who is unavoidably absent. I want to state very categorically that we are very pleased to be part of history that is being made here. As a Rotary Club of Port Harcourt Echo, we are mainly concerned about the ecosystem, the environment. If you look at the environment of Port Harcourt in terms of the quality of air we have been breathing in the past 6-7 years, it has been killing us. There has been an increase in cancers of all kinds. Children are born with different types of defects, birth defects. We are seeing men cannot impregnate their wives. These are happening right in the city of Port Harcourt. So we want to ensure that the candidates, as a debate, and the next government will ensure that they mainstream environmental issues and make them very topical, and formulate policies and programs that will be geared towards environmental sustainability. This is very key. Just about 2 or 3 days ago, the NIMET gave a warning that there's going to be severe flooding, and we know that this has been a recurring decimal in our environment. We want to see a government that will be proactive in terms of policy formulation to tackling the perennial flooding events that happen, especially in the Orashi area and other areas of River State. So we wish all the candidates well, and whoever emerges, we want to see them take environmental issues very seriously and topical. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And the next sponsor, it's a very special one to us in the media. He's a reporter, he's a journalist, he's a publisher, and he started and grew from the Tide newspapers, moved to Newswatch, and moved to London. Ladies and gentlemen, my privilege to introduce my friend and brother, our colleague, particularly those of us who walked the streets of Port Harcourt. Gentlemen, I introduce Moffat Ekoriko of News Africa London, one of our sponsors. I'm sure it's a very high benchmark you're setting for us.
Okay. Good evening, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Let me not go through the protocol list so that I won't take a lot of time. My name is Mofat Ekoriko. I'm the publisher at News Africa in London, but I have my roots here because I started my career in journalism in 1985 at the Nigerian Tide. So you can calculate how many years we've been doing it. I bring you greetings from all the journalists at News Africa, about 58 of us scattered all over the world. It is a privilege to be asked to, by the NUJ to be a partner. I believe that journalism is about the good of society, and any platform or any avenue you can seek that good, then that is part of the search for excellence in our professional practice. The utility value of a debate like this is not just about the candidates selling themselves to the voters. It is also about being able to listen to the ideas of the other candidates so that you can pick things that would also enrich your own program should you be the eventual winner of the election. I would encourage the candidates to pay attention to the others. It's not just about leadership, it's not about self. It is about service to society. And if somebody else, other than you, have good ideas that can further the agenda, why not pick and run with those ideas when you're elected into office? I wish you all the best and success at the polls. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Mofat Ekoriko. I'm sure when I grow up, I want to be like you. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, straight away, I'd like to, at this point, hand over this microphone to our moderator, Segun Owolabi, to continue. Segun.
And thank you so much indeed. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, gentlemen of the press, esteemed guests. Again, in another 15 minutes, we'll be going live. So, we have some of the governorship candidates seated here. May I again remind us of the ground rules? Please, you're just to listen. No booing, no clapping, no humming. Kindly listen to the questions and the answers that will be coming. Remember, here we are having a cerebral discourse of the next CEO of River State. So again, there are ways for the conduct of the debates. Their Excellencies would have initial 5 minutes each to talk about their manifestos. All the candidates would have initial 5 minutes to talk about their manifestos. After that, there will be questions on economy, open governance, and budgeting. Their Excellencies would answer questions in that category for 3 minutes. Again, in that category for 3 minutes. After that, we will have follow-up questions. And the follow-up question will be for 2 minutes each. Sorry. So it will be 2 minutes each. The next set of questions, which will be on governance, good governance, society, would also be 3 minutes each, while the follow-up will be 2 minutes each. The last round of talk will be an opportunity for the candidates to make their closing remarks, and that will be 90 seconds. Again, we have a team of timekeepers here. When you hear the bell the first time, that is to tell you that get ready, your time is being used up. And the bell will ring only once. So, for the first 3 minutes, once it is 2 minutes, the bell will ring once. That shows you that you have 60 seconds left. At the expiration of the 60 seconds, the bell will ring thrice, and would expect their Excellencies to stop at that moment. Again, I'll go through the rules again. The initial opening remarks for each of the candidates, which is an opportunity to educate Rivers people on their manifestos, will be for 5 minutes. Each candidate, 5 minutes. Thereafter, we would have another 3 minutes, which will be for economy, open governance, and budgeting. Follow-up questions will be for 2 minutes. We'll also have another set of questions, which will be on issues relating to security, poverty eradication, and human capital development. That would also be for 3 minutes, and follow-up for 2 minutes. Thereafter, we would have your closing remarks, and the closing remarks will be 90 seconds, 1 minute and 30 seconds. Again, the rules is, once you have 1 minute left, in the first 3 minutes, at the expiration of 2 minutes, the bell will ring once. When your time expires, it will ring thrice. Again, I want to welcome their excellencies, and I congratulate you. But just before then, there is a short presentation to be done. And I welcome again Mr. Blessing Wikina to help us with that.
Thank you, Shegun. May I invite our elder here, Ignatius Chukwu, to please come and coordinate this. IG.
Thank you, gentlemen. 2 short presentations. We know that when people get into government, they forget a lot. But when we make this presentation in public and get them committed to them in public, I think they will remember. Is MM ready? 2 presentations only. One from our sponsor, and the other is from NUJ. If you are ready, we go. Is NUJ here? Be ready when NUJ is to present. You will have, NUJ has male and female wings. You will have. So it's just a presentation, you do it your way.
Okay. Your Excellencies, the whole world talks about social inclusion and gender. What we want to present is our way of telling you that already your leaders, whether you occupy the office of the governor or not, but we pray you will, this document is for you to have it at the back of your mind, that for every program, for every policy, for every discussion, we should always remember that every group is carried along. Men, women, youths, persons with disability, and vulnerable populations. I want to invite one of the Quebec board members to help me make the presentation, Barrister Rosemary.
On behalf of Quebec Women Development Center, we say, please look into these documents when you occupy that office.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Just stay here so that the camera can catch you.
Yeah.
Better. Okay.
The last person. Yeah.
We say, please make sure you read through and digest. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. IG. NUJ.
Time is not on our side. That's why we are Organo Day, Madam Day. Now watch, please come forward. The chairman read in the address. He mentioned the state of government-owned media houses in Rivers State. We, as journalists, think that sector needs some attention. What we are presenting now is a charter of demand, consolidating that in the speech. We are presenting it as a certificate of reminder. And therefore, we think that when you get into office, Chairman, come over here. when you get into office, our charter should be on the table, that from day one, we hear what to be done, so that our media houses will meet up 21st century standards in equipment and manpower. Chairman, are your certificates ready? This is one. So you present to each person and collect it back and give to the other, while the permanent one will be mailed. I hand it over to NUJ, take, and assist the chairman to present to them one by one. You don't need to read it. They already know what is there. Oh yeah, proceed. Give to chairman.
Maybe I'll just use this one as to
go ahead and give to the first person. Where are the cameramen? Don't block them. Don't block them. Stay this way.
I present, okay. On behalf of NUJ River State Council, I present this charter of demand. If you go through, you will see exactly what we are asking for any of you that will go there as governor. So I present it to you, sir. We are going to get more, but this one has not been signed, but there are other ones that we are still looking for. They have all been signed, but I don't know where. Yes. Okay, yeah. So, sorry, we will bring the one that we go around to all of you. For now, this is what we have. So I will do same to you, sir. I present to you, on behalf of the Nigerian Union of Journalists, Charter of Demand. Like I said, if you go through it, you will see what we want you to do when you get to the officer. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I do say, this is our Charter of Demand from the Nigerian Union of Journalists. You will go through it and you know exactly what we want you to do for us when you get into office. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much, NUJ Chairman and NUJ Chairperson. You don't know what you have done to the family of journalism in River State in the Niger Delta. Mr. Blessing, thank you very much.
And thank you so much, everyone. Your Excellencies, in another 5 minutes, we'll be going live to the debate. May I ask that the Excellencies come up stage? Now, we have the seating arrangement done in line with INEC regulation, according to INEC arrangements. So, their Excellencies will go up stage. There's a piece of paper on the seat, and there identifies where you will sit. And again, please note that the arrangement is done in line with INEC provision. May I ask the Excellencies to please go up stage? Thank you so much. Thank you. Please, just go up stage. Ushers, could you just collect the piece of papers from them? Thank you. Your Excellencies, again, you're not expected to stand to ask questions. When the questions are asked, Your Excellencies, you'll sit comfortably and answer the questions. Again, we've announced the rules. The first 5 minutes is for you to take us through your manifesto. We will want you to educate Rivers people on your manifesto, the first 5 minutes. Thereafter, the first set of questions will be asked, 3 minutes, and thereafter follow-up, the second set of questions, and we'll be concluding this debate. At this juncture, please permit me to welcome the anchors for the debates who will be asking questions. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests, Your Excellencies, gentlemen of the press, please welcome Olalekan the O Square from Love FM. Please, let's welcome Olalekan. Thank you so much. And another compare to ask questions this evening. Please, let's welcome Annie Abubakar from Today FM. And the last but not the least, from Kebbi Kachi, let's welcome the think she's the group coordinator of the Quebec Culture, please. Let's welcome her, please. Let's put our hands together for her. Thank you so much. So, we'll be counting down in the next 4 minutes. We'll have all the questions ready. Can I have the questions presented to the anchors? The questions. We'll formally hand over the questions to the anchors. Thank you. Cameras, we get set to go live in 3 minutes. We're set to go live in 3 minutes, cameras. And again, let me remind us that radio stations will be hooking up to take live feed from this debate. We also have TV stations hooking up to take live feed from this debate. Atlantic Television is taking live feed and is streaming live this debate. Today FM, Love FM, Wish FM, and Wave FM are all live on this debate at this moment. Apart from this, we also have several other platforms that are live at this moment on this debate. Your Excellencies, again, may I remind distinguished ladies and gentlemen of the ground rules. Please, no side talk, no clapping, no humming, no jeering. Simply listen and take notes. Thank you so much. So at this point, I'll welcome for his opening remarks, and please, we're live now, for his opening remarks, which is for 5 minutes, Candidate Accord. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, very distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, the body of journalists who have put together this very amazing platform for us to sell ourselves to the Rivers people. And of course, I want to also thank all Rivers people who I know have taken the time to watch us live. We have said that Rivers was created essentially to provide prosperity for all our peoples. And so the trust of our manifesto is prosperity, for all. What we're looking at is how many persons, how many households will be able to take out of poverty into prosperity, and from prosperity to yet greater prosperity. Now we understand that there are so many cardinal principles, that make up what you have to do, in governance. So we have policies on education, we have policies, on security, we have policies on rule of law. However, because we all understand that all of this grammar that we speak will pale into insignificance if we have not grown the economy to accommodate all of us. So the major thrust of my talk here today will be, how to increase the economy of River State. And so what I'm presenting is quite bold, is audacious. A lot of people will wonder. But I'm saying that currently where we are is a 9 billion naira monthly IGR. Where we are now is a paltry $20 billion annual GDP. Where do I want to take us to? So well over 25 billion naira IGR in 4 years. Well over 350 billion in 12 to 16 years. Now in 12 to 16 years, of course, we will not be in office. But what we're saying essentially is that we would have laid the foundations for exponential growth in River State, such that River State would have become too big to fail by the time we leave office. And then the next generation of persons who will succeed us approach governance with the same level of industry with which we would approach governance. Then they will be able to achieve $250 billion dollars GDP in 12 years. If they are lazy, they will probably be able to do that in 16 years because we're going to put River State on autopilot, cruise control. Now, what are the essential areas? If that is your drive, then you'll be talking about multi-billion naira, billion-dollar investments, industries. So what are the big revenue earners for Rivers State today? It's just simple, oil and gas. We run a monocultural economy. But when you ask economists what are the big revenue earners for Rivers State, they will tell you it's not oil and gas, but agriculture and tourism. So there's essentially a need for us, to diversify. So when you look at the enormous natural resources that we have, the potentials that we have, you begin to wonder and worry, the dissonance between our potential and our reality. So what we want to do is to take us to that place, of great destiny that Rivers State is destined to do. Take, for instance, a place like Orokoto. You could have a massive fishing, terminal in Orokoto. It's suitable for all kinds of aquaculture, mariculture, and everything. Now we're talking about humongous things. We're talking about humongous things. Trawlers will be coming there to take, whether it's squids that you find, oysters, octopi, there's a lot of crustaceans, mollusks, all in our waters. With the level of devastation that we have in our waters, we still have over 270 different species of fish. So there's a lot of markets, and we're not looking at localized markets. We're looking at markets for exports. So there will be packaging, there will be processing. The entire value chain is what we're looking at here to do. Now, that alone is massive in Orokoto. And then, of course, we're thinking about a green agro-rail line, which will start from Asrama in St. Anthony. Now, we have said we're going to do so much in Orokoto, and you wonder why we will not start the agro line from Orokoto. We don't want to promise you what we can deliver, because Orokoto, has a bit of messiness. So we're going to start from Asrama, take the green rail line all the way to Ka. Ka is in Kana local government. From Ka to Bori, Bori to Balgui in Kai. And then
Thank you, Candidate Accord. Thank you. And next, Candidates Action Alliance. You have 5 minutes to talk to your manifesto and tell us about your plans and vision for Rivers State. Your time starts now.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I thank the NUJ for putting together this opportunity for all of us to converse and to discuss the way forward for the development of Rivers State. Our state is under the siege of poverty, unemployment. Our state is under siege by a mono economy. As I speak now, our state is increasingly becoming a civil service state. When government has not paid salaries, nothing happens again in Rivers State. When government is owing contractors, nothing is happening in Rivers State. And given this situation we have found ourselves, we decided to capture all our thoughts and our plans for Rivers State under 4 major strategic: security, law enforcement, and peace building. The second has to do with skills development, job creation, and poverty alleviation. The third is what I call the 3 I's, which is innovation, industrialization, and infrastructure. And the 4th pillar is on good governance and quality service delivery. Now, the whole philosophy of that document is anchored on the people's vision. When we talk about people's vision, it is different from the people's first vision. The people's vision we are talking about is that for once, as a way of advancing the development, giving quality livelihood to people, that people must begin to see themselves as the means and the end of their own development. And that if you say people are poor, the people should be allowed to define their poverty and given a platform to define their poverty. Occasionally, policymakers think and believe that they can take such decisions for the ordinary people. So we are calling for mass participation in building the river state of our dream. And so we have concluded in that document that all we are after is to deliver on a safe and prosperous river state. And in doing that, we have also looked at all the different sectors, whether it's in infrastructure, road construction, it is in health, it's in education, agriculture, and all the various sectors of the economy. Three things stand out that that document wants to achieve. Even if you want to build a road, you want to build a bridge, the question is, will it reduce poverty? Will it create wealth? Will it also create new jobs and put money in the hands of Rivers people? So whichever sector you look at it, we will still continue to ask if that policy will add value directly to the lives of Rivers people. And finally, I want to also say that in that same document, we have put together a very ambitious plan to develop new economies for River State. When I talk of new economies, I'm talking about the tech economy. Now, it's difficult for us to begin to project thousands of jobs through the usual conventional sectors that we all know. But the tech economy, if we adopt it, for instance, in the first 3 months of being governor, I'll be able to take about 5,000 youths under the youth economy out of the unemployment market. You can see the effect of that on security. You can see the effect on that on human capital development and also the prosperity of the land. Let me also end to say that most of these proposals we have in that document are very ambitious, but they are doable because we have tried them under several PPP projects when we served in government, and we believe that given an executive office, we have all it takes to harness the abundant resources that the state has to deliver on a safe and prosperous river state. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Candidate Action Alliance. And next, Candidate Boot Party. You have 5 minutes to talk to your manifesto and plans for Rivers people. Your time begins now.
I'd like to thank the NUJ for putting this program together. Human capital development has been zero in River State for the past 12 years, if I'm correct. And everything in my manifesto is geared towards that. I have a 5-point agenda, which is industrialization, urbanization, structural empowerment, health, and education. But I'll start with industrialization. I hear people talk about industrialization all the time, and a lot of people think that industrialization has got to do with just setting up industries and providing work. But we forget that there are other parts of industrialization that has been abandoned. The entertainment industry is industrialization. The petroleum industry is industrialization. The private sector is industrialization. Now, I will start with, when we talk about the entertainment industry, which falls under culture and tourism, we first of all have to go to our ministries and see, because most of these areas of industry falls under the civil service. And first of all, the civil service literally is dead. Our secretariats are dead. Workers are owed salary. The place is a mess. So we must, first of all, first step before we even start this industrialization is to revamp the secretariats, pay outstanding salaries, promotions that are due, make sure that that happens, to increase productivity, among civil servants. Then we move, to the private sector. Now, the other side of industrialization that creates jobs for its citizens, you can't we create these industries, but you must have byproducts, or you must have materials to be able to service these industries. I'll give you an example. You could decide to say you want to set up an industry that produces soap or sponges, which obviously falls under palm oil. Without agriculture, we cannot achieve this, because even if these industries are set up and we haven't addressed the agricultural sector, we would not have materials to service this industry. So we would look into the agricultural aspect properly. And I'm not just talking about agriculture in the rural areas that produce little change. I'm talking about mechanized agriculture, which by the time we do this provides enough jobs. And then we look at urbanization. Rivers State was not built to take this number of people. It's like having 3 kids in a 2-bedroom flat, and then you have 10 kids later and you still remain in the 2-bedroom flat. So we must expand. We've got LGAs existing already, so I think we should create phases in this LGA and make them cities. I'm thinking about 8 new cities. One might not be able to achieve the 8 cities in 4 years, but we're looking at about maybe starting 3-4 cities. And these cities must stand for something. I'm looking at Bonny. We've got all that beauty and we're not doing anything about it. And Bonny could be one of the biggest tourist attraction centers, not just in Nigeria, but in Africa. We're looking at using one of the cities as a trade city, where we would build trade centers where investors will come, will tap into, take advantage of people in Aba and traders to come to these trade cities, steal the show from places like Lagos, Balogun Market, and all those places. And this city would just be a city of trade. Now we move to the structural empowerment. Zero human capacity development. Lives a state as rich as River State that produces almost 60% of its oil, yet we have so much poverty here. So we must use agencies like the RSSDA we will provide loans to empower our youths. And I'm not talking about small-scale empowerment like 20,000 or 30,000. I'm talking about between 5 to 20 million. Then the job of the RSSDA will be to monitor these loans, audit them, and follow up these loans and teach these people on how to run their businesses. We will be able to grow. I'll talk about the health. The health sector is a mess. If you go to our hospitals, people are dying every day, nobody cares. So I have this plan to revamp the health sector, not just only in the in infrastructure, but to create a system where people don't have to die because they don't have money. So we'll partner with the NHIS, which is an insurance scheme, to provide insurance for civil servants and the private sector and the rest. So I'll stop there.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. Your Excellencies, at this juncture, we'll go straight to the questioning segment. And I will hand you over to Annie Abubakar, who will take the first set of questions. Thank you so much, Your Excellencies.
Thank you so much, Shegun. I will start the questions the same way we had earlier started. That means my first question will go to the Accord candidate. The first question I have for you, and I'm sure that's the same question each and every one of you will also have to answer to, is concerning open governance, open budgeting, inclusiveness, creating trust in government affairs. What is your position on this?
You can't achieve anything if you are not transparent. Where we are, we understand that we need to win the trust of the Rivers man, woman, and child. Therefore, transparency and openness is the key. A lot of people have said, that they will support me to be governor because they think that I'm a philanthropist, and I've said to them, that will not be enough for the person who has to be the next governor of Rivers State. He or she must have the capacity to expand the economy to accommodate all of us. He or she must have the capacity and the willingness to strengthen our institutions of state that can hold all our aspirations. So rule of law, transparency, ease of doing business, all of that come under that. So we understand that these are essential things that must be done. And then he or she must have the disposition to provide opportunities for everybody. Because we all understand that we all cannot be born tall, rich, and handsome. That's why you need a government that will create a level playing field and offer to each and every one of us the fair chance of success in this race of life. So yes, good governance, open governance, transparency, are the watchword for all the things that we say we want to do. First and foremost, you need to get the buy-in of the Rivers people. they need to understand and agree with you that you're actually taking them somewhere. Our program is quite robust, it's audacious, and it will require that even in our listening, we keep a 360 degrees radius, so that even the things that you didn't say, we can hear and formulate policies that will win the trust of Rivers people. I already told you all the things that I want to do. Let's take, tech. My brother here spoke about tech. The Nigerian Startup Act has been passed. What states have to do is to try and domesticate it. Osun State, I understand yesterday, said they were going to pass it to the National Assembly, to the State Assembly, to try and domesticate. Now, when you do that, you provide a lot of funding for tech, for innovations and all that. You also will need to provide, mentoring. Mentorship is quite important, an essential ingredient, of that. You also, to make that great, you need to know what is the broadband penetration in Rivers State. What is the Google mapping coverage, of Rivers State? Because you want, every young person, everybody who is crazy with all kinds of ideas, to see the person as the place to come. So it is not just enough, that, you've created, tech companies and all of that. As we have said, MOHA is going to be our tech city, our own Silicon Valley. Our dream is to be the California, the United States. We're not even looking at Lagos. Comparatively, we can say Lagos, but we're looking way beyond Lagos. In 8 years, we should be way ahead of Lagos. So we have energy cities, we have tech cities, which will be, energy cities will be on the Soku, tech city will be in MOHA. Then we're talking about industries that will cut, right across. We're talking about petrochemical industries that we're going to have in, for instance, Bubolo. You're talking about smelting companies that you have in Anderekri. And this is a spread, right across. You're talking about
Thank you very much. I'll move on to the Action Alliance candidate as the same question. When it comes to open governance, inclusivity, what's your position on that?
First and foremost, there will be need for developing an institutional framework to deliver on open governance. Now, a lot of times when we talk about these things, we fail to understand that you must create systems that work to deliver on these expectations. The systems are not there, the structures are not there. So first for me will be the institutional framework to deal with it. The second will have to do with strengthening the bureaucracy all over the world. Once the bureaucracy is weak, political leadership cannot deliver on their promises. And so we must strengthen the bureaucracy of the states for them to be able to, complement, the political efforts. Thirdly, we will get the people involved in keeping with our manifesto, the people's vision, that the people must be involved in policy formulation. That means that the people must also join in the proposal of projects and policies of government that directly affects their life. And that's why we are even proposing to designate the 23 local government headquarters as development centers in the state, to give every part of the state equitable and fair access to the resources of the state to develop at their pace, especially when we have created a template for such development. When we talk about open governance, we're also talking about accountability, transparency, and anti-corruption. All of us know today that nobody can say, for example, that you have an idea of the state government budget for the past how many years. That document is not accessible to people. That is the very foundation of corruption in any system. When people don't have an idea of how much government has budgeted for one project or the other, people read it in the papers depending on what policy formulators tell them. Again, people should have access, like I said, to government information, and then there should be reward and sanctions for those who also, when there are infractions in those guidelines. Again, we are going to propose e-governance. I've said it repeatedly wherever I've been asked that the governor must not be on seat for certain actions of government to take place. Every structure of government, every layer of government should be working, and everyone should carry out his role. But most importantly, on open governance, it is for the governor, Dawarijo, to lead by example, and also to muster the needed political will to deliver and walk his talk. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Action Alliance candidate. I'll move on along now to the Boot Party candidate. Still the same question. We would like to know your position when it comes to open budgeting, when it comes to creating trust in government affairs. What do you have to say to this?
Well, there are 2 pointers for me. I believe that that's why people have voted for people from their various constituencies, which is the House of Assembly, to represent them. They represent the people. And the House of Assembly is there to checkmate the governor, or rather the government in power, and the government in power is accountable to the House of Assembly in a lot of areas, which obviously is not happening. Also, through the ministries, commissioners are picked to represent their people from various LGAs as well. And growing up, I remember my parents were civil servants, permanent secretaries. I remember that they used to, ministries apply for what they call envelopes, and the government gives these ministries envelopes to run the different budgets at the various ministries. And when that happens, you could clearly see what the government is doing with the funds. So if we can revive that system, that would be nice.
Thank you very much. My second question, again, I'll start with the Accord Party. And this has to do with IGR. You mentioned something about boosting the IGR in River State should you become the next governor. But River State government since 2012 has done fairly well with formal taxes. The problem has been with informal taxes concerning traders and informal businesses and SMEs. What will be your formula to address the issue of informal taxes?
Well, I think that's fairly simple. Everything, as we say, luckily for me, I'm coming from the private sector, where we take for granted that whatever thing that you need to do must have a framework. Now, the informal sector is, for me, even the biggest revenue earner for the state. And therefore, you want to ensure that there is no double taxation. You want to ensure that there's fairness, in your taxation. You want to ensure that whatever thing that you do, you have encouraged the small, business right to grow. And then when you win the confidence, of the people, and then they see that, you're concerned about the education of their children, you're concerned about their healthcare, and indeed, the revenues that you collect from them are put into proper places, then you'll be able to achieve that. So one of the things that you want to do, right, is data collection. Now, it's difficult, where we are, but you may have to digitalize all of these things for you to be able to collect enough data. And there will be a lot of fear, there will be a lot of, fright that will get into traders when you begin to try to digitalize, because they'll think that, this will mean that I'll come right under the tax brackets. And you need to let them understand that they need not be afraid that every penny that they pay as tax, they will receive that, perhaps even a lot more, right, in what to go into the education of their children, into their healthcare, into their housing, into, social services.
Thank you very much, sir. Again, I'll move on now to Action Alliance. We're looking at taxes, and I want to believe that this is one of the routes to increasing the IGR. So when it comes to informal taxes, what will be your strategy?
I agree with my brother on the issue of widening the tax net, especially given the fact that those in the informal sector are the greatest or biggest generators, if we use the word, those who can generate tax. But let me say this very clearly, and I stand to be challenged on it. For you to bring the informal sector into the tax net and get the best out of them, government must promote a tax justice system. A tax justice system that payers see exactly what these monies they have paid for is used for. We can actually begin to tag projects based on the monies that people pay. So ultimately they see that they are the ones funding government projects. But when monies are stolen by government, nothing will come out of it. You can't get them to pay those monies because they'll be wondering why they should sacrifice a little they have for people who have so much to steal also from them. Again, there must be a sensitization, a tax advocacy, program, a kind of education program where the people are sensitized on why they need to do that. And then finally, our e-commerce platform based on the tech economy I talked about will provide opportunity for the people to do self-evaluation and also to be able to remit taxes, no matter how little it is. And government should be able also to give incentives in terms of opportunities that come to people in the state based on the fact that you paid, no matter how little the amount is, but that you do it faithfully, there should be a reward for it. That will increase the interest of people in the informal sector in paying their taxes.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. I'll move on to the candidate for the Boot Party. It's the same question, sir. When it comes to informal taxes, it is one of, from what I understand from the past two speakers, it is one of the biggest brackets. What will be your strategy in trying to get those under data?
One of the biggest issues we face in our government has got to do with structure. We don't have a structure that monitors a lot of things that we do. I have businesses in Rivers State, and sometimes we see, like the Accord Party said, double taxation. You see a group can come and say, you have to pay this tax, and they go and another group comes, and there's no system. We need auditors to be able to audit the system properly. So we just need to create a structure that will be able to monitor, and like it's been mentioned, database is key because we're still using the same analog and old system in doing things. So that would be my suggestion.
All right, distinguished, very distinguished personalities this great day. Once again, I want to say a warm welcome to the NUJ Governorship Debate 2023. And we're wishing you guys the very best. At this point, I have questions ranging from security to the oil industry. I'd like to start off with the Accord candidate, the area of security. What exactly would you do with the Rivers State Neighborhood Watch? Three options here. First one is to scrap it. The second is to reorganize it. The third is to let the sleeping dogs lie. Part two of the question, what is your plan on security? And I have another question for you. Is amnesty really working?
Sorry, is it what? Okay, if amnesty is working. Well, let's take the issue of whether or not I would want to keep the neighborhood watch as we have it. Is it working for us today? Do we feel safer as a result of it? Do we feel, manipulation in their activities? Do we think that they're set up to pander to certain interests, or they are set up to provide security for Rivers people? So the key thing is, what you do with it will depend on how you define it as the governor of the state. Now, it won't be proper, to scrap it because it's already in existence. What you want to do is to see how you can improve that in a manner that people have confidence in their activities, in a manner that it is not taking over the role of the regular, formal police force and all of that. And what it does for you is that it helps these agencies in information gathering, and of course they give to relevant authorities, to act upon. So as we have said, there's got to be a framework. You've got to come up with a framework, under which they would function. And they can't go outside of that framework because they're there, to serve, the Rivers people. So a lot of people have argued against state police. The reason for that is because a lot of these things today, when laws, are despised, human lives, and property are under the covers of a mob, you would want to wonder if you should, trust the intentions of the executive governors, the various states to use the police not for their personal purposes, If we saw what happened at the last elections, then you want to wonder if you should leave, policing in the hands, of the governors. And so the neighborhood watch, the way it is currently constituted, it was never intended to actually provide security for Rivers people, it was intended to provide security for certain interests. And so to that extent, it is improper. But of course, you won't throw the baby with the bathwater. What we try to do is to see how you refine it to make it, functional for all of us. Our next thing we will ask, whether or not it is working. Quite frankly, it's obvious that it's not working. Nothing will happen if people are unemployed. So like I've said, politics is war without bloodshed, but it's war. It's war against hunger, war against illiteracy, war against joblessness. If you fight these wars, you need a war against hate. As a matter of fact, the next government in Rivers State can have an entire agenda, right, on the war against hate. Because we have become so polarized, so hateful of one another. Now, if you fight this war successfully, then the war against security would instead have been won 90%. If you don't provide jobs in an atmosphere where 41% of our people are unemployed and 19% of our people are underemployed, so you have graduates who are functioning as security guards, as cooks, and as stewards. You cannot expect to have security. So no matter what you do, number one cure for security is jobs, opportunities for people. That's the biggest cure, for insecurity.
Okay, I want to go to the candidate of both parties. Same question. You may want to attack it from the second part of it, which is your plans on security. Is amnesty working? And the same question, what exactly would you do with the Rivers State Neighborhood Watch? First option, scrap it. Would you choose to reorganize it, or would you let the sleeping dogs lie?
Well, I would say I would reform it. I know that I've been wishing we can have state policing, but obviously that's, that can happen because of the laws. So I'd rather want to convert the neighborhood watch. I would say we must secure, our state through the land, through the sea, air. I would probably call it a different name, probably land guards, sea guards, and air guards. In this part of the country, if you look at foreign countries, when they're chasing crime or they're pursuing crime, they've got the helicopters, moving all about. They've got the sea, so you can't escape. So I'll probably reform it. Then I would say, how do I reform it? You have the Nigerian police. What do they do when they want to take them? They send them to the police school. They give them the trainings, even the army. I would start a center, like a 6-month training program, both oral and written exams to change the orientation on how to go about things. And that's how I intend to do that. And no amnesty. Well, amnesty is not really having the effect that it should have, just a bit, but I think we need to improve in that area.
All right, let's go to the Action Alliance candidate. I'm sure that everyone here would like to get your views on the same question. How exactly would you want to tackle the area of the already set up neighborhood watch? Scrap it, organize it, or let the sleeping dogs lie? And your plans for security, you may want to share with us.
Very quickly, the neighborhood watch is consistent with one of my 3 approaches, to dealing with security in the state, which is the community policing. I think that the original idea is good, but unfortunately in implementing it, the implementation has been in default. And so what we will do is to reorganize, restructure, and make it to be in line with the expectations of the people. Those of us who are in Port Harcourt, there are several estates that organize themselves and they have their security for their estates. That's the model of community policing we're talking about. Those staying within the same period with government support and assistance, with access to government communications platforms, can actually put themselves together and provide the basic security for themselves. But that is just by the way. We will work on it and get it properly reformed, and for it to meet the expectations of the people. On my agenda for security, I have talked about earlier about traditional policing the community policing, and then thirdly, the problem-solving policing. But it will interest you to know that the problem-solving policing appears to resonate more with me, and that takes me to the issue of the amnesty. You know, the amnesty, yes, may have recorded some gains, but we know that this thing cannot be forever. It cannot be a perpetual project. And the fact that government is unable to know when to terminate this is also worrisome. So what we are proposing is that in the circumstance when the amnesty program, the root cause of that establishment of the amnesty program is what we should consider under our problem-solving policing and begin to deal with the root cause. Secondly, we will also, for the general security, deploy biometric identification. That is important. Communication and emergency response system to swiftly deal with residents who are under threat. And then, of course, surveillance and monitoring, and then the state data management system that will be put in place so that from your homes, with your phones and with your app or whatever, you can always do a distress call and there will be a response. And in any case, as the city of Port Harcourt is, we need to divide it into clusters to have, security architecture to deal with each cluster has a peculiar security challenge. What you do in Marine Base and Bundu is not what you do in GRA. So unfortunately, lumping the whole city and the whole state as one in terms of the security architecture is our challenge. We must be able to compartmentalize it and deal with them deliberately based on the nature of the security challenges in those areas.
All right, thank you so much. Action Alliance candidate, I think I would like us to have conversations regarding the ever-present menace of oil bunkering. I would like to start off with you. What do you do about oil bunkering and modular refineries? The outgoing administration tried to set up modular refineries to replace bunkering, but as it stands, nothing more was heard about it. Some say modular refineries may not be the solution to the problem. Have you done, by any means, or I don't know, have you done any research to take a position on this?
I disagree. I believe the modular refineries can be the solution to this. It depends on what the offer is on the table for the people involved in this oil bunkering. Black suits, especially in river states, a lot of people are not aware. I'd use my mother as an example. When she was alive, she went abroad for a checkup and they saw particles of the black suits in her system, and the doctor said it was cancerous. And people don't realize what we've gone through in river states because of the black suit. Probably in the next couple of years to come, God forbid, most people will begin to see the effect. So that is an area we need to tackle seriously. The modular refineries is key. All we need to do is call the people involved and reorganize, restructure, and give them, or rather make them proper offers, because they believe they're making a lot of money doing it on the side. So that's what I would do. Thank you.
I'll go to the Accord candidate. Same issue of oil bunkering. What are your plans? And you may also want to share your thoughts with us regarding modular refineries. Is it the permanent solution? Where do you stand?
Well, you can't take it in isolation. The reason why people go into oil bunkering is not because they have the technology for it. It's not because they are refiners. It's because there's an absence of jobs. There's an absence of opportunities. So setting up modular refineries in itself would not solve the problem of bunkering. It's whether or not you have been able to expand the economy to accommodate all of us. Whether there are provisions and opportunities for people to express themselves in various areas. So what you must consider about is how to provide those jobs, from small to medium-sized businesses, to the medium to the large, humongous, ones that we are promising. These are the different things that you must put in place. If you look through our manifesto, you will see that we'll have provisions for modular refineries in Gokana and also, in Oba Igwe. We have those provisions. And then, let me just even explain my manifesto that speaks to the things that we want to do in the different local government areas. The manifesto is a composite that talks about what we want to do for Rivers State. And then the manifesto speaks, to where we intend to do each thing in each local government. So for every local government, there's a contract that I have with each LGA. So it tells you in your LGA, these are the sort of things that we'll do. So if you look at that, you will see that in Ngokana, there is a plan for us to have, a modular refinery. But we're not looking at that as a means to solving all the problems. We're looking at that as part of, the whole chain that we have put together to provide opportunities, for our people. So yes, modular refineries, of course, will work. It will help, in alleviating, the problems. It will help in a great deal, but that in itself will not provide, all the solutions that you need. You need to provide jobs. Like I told you, 60% of Rivers people are either underemployed or unemployed. It's a humongous challenge. So we're going to solve that, by domesticating the Startups Act. We're going to solve that, by creating all the industries that we want to create and the different places. We're talking about textile factories. We're talking about, fast-moving consumer goods like, cosmetics, soaps, perfumes, and the different locations where you're going to have them. We're talking about, clay industries. We're talking about smelting industries. We're talking about, doing a 200-kilometer bi-directional expressway all the way to our borders, right, with the east. So it's huge sort of things that we're planning. Rivers State has the potential for so much. And then we need to be able to put all of these things together. So when you see our plan, you see the interconnectivity, and you know that a lot of effort has been put into it.
All right, let's go to the Action Alliance candidates. If you find yourself as the incoming governor of Rivers State in 2023 by May 29, what would be your take? Would you go with the outgoing administration? They've tried to set up a modular refinery to replace bunkering, or would you rather just scrap it? What would be your approach to it?
I guess when you talked about illegal bunkering, you're talking of illegal bunkering, because there is legal bunkering and illegal bunkering. So I just want to be sure what you're talking, because bunkering is not evil per se, but the one I'm sure you're referring to is illegal one. Now, I'm an apostle of the establishment of modular refineries, unapologetic apostle of it. When I served as Commissioner for Energy, I led the state to go into a PPP project with some companies in the UK and Ukraine to develop modular refineries across the state. With the pilot scheme at Ikpokiri, we have cleared the site. The refinery was already built in Ukraine. It was just to move them in. We had also acquired, the first state government then to acquire the modular refinery license from the federal government. That was one project I was passionate about. Now, I agree with my brother, and I like his perspective, but I just want to add something to it, that perhaps he could also consider that these modular refineries scattered across the state will actually provide jobs. It will provide jobs. The jobs we are saying is not available, that's why people are going into bunkering. The modular refineries will actually provide those jobs for people to have the opportunity, of doing something. Then there is a proposal that sometimes I'm shy to talk about, but it's a reality, just like what has happened in Russia when they moved from socialism to, some form of capital socialism. And that is the fact that monies, a lot of these people who do this illegal bunkering, there's a lot of money in their hands, criminally gotten money. Can the government also give them amnesty to invest those monies in the modular refineries and provide jobs for everybody? Because if they don't do, they will keep that money and use them for criminal activities. Government should be able to either sanction them or mop up those monies for productive activities so that we can move from production to consumption to production. So for me, the value chain even of having a modular refinery, those who will be in transport, those who will be in servicing, those who will be in distribution, those who will be in pipeline laying and all that, the spiral effect of having several modular refineries in the state, it can create a completely new economy, especially in the oil and gas sector in Rivers State, something even bigger than what the federal government is doing.
Your Excellencies, we must thank you for this cerebral discourse and highly intellectual presentation you've made to us this evening. We've come to the first half of this. In the second segment, Chief Constance Major will be asking you specific questions for specific demographies. We're looking at the fiscal challenge and some very special people in the society. And that would form the next set of questions. May I hand you over to Chief Constance Major?
Thank you, Shegun. Your Excellencies, I must commend you for taking us beyond oil, because from your interactions, it is obvious that we'll be looking at a state beyond just going to the federal government to bring allocation if and when any of you comes on board. So let us look at the lower segment that makes up the River State. You've been talking about expanding the city-state of River State. So let us go to the local governments. It is being said that if we have real local government autonomy, we shall have development. So I would like to know how each of you intend to handle local government administration, because it is clear that what we have right now has not taken us anywhere. People are in charge of local governments, but the communities do not really have any sense of having somebody on the driving seat. So I'd like to start with Chief Dumont. What will be local government administration under you?
Well, local government autonomy is a must. You can't even think around it. It's just a must. Now, they are the persons closest to you and I in our communities. And once you give them autonomy, you will also need to let the people understand that you have done so. So in my administration, every penny that should go to every local government will go to the local government. And there will be an announcement that this has gone to the local government council chairman. And that you must hold your council chairman accountable for how that amount of money is spent. So everything will be so transparent that there will not be any need, for the local government chairman to think that he can get protection, from the state if he engages in underhand activities. So it is very clear that you need to give autonomy, not just, to local governments, even to the House of Assembly, you must give them autonomy. Even the judiciary must have autonomy. All of these areas must be self-funding if you want to have very effective governance. And like I've always maintained, once you get the politics right, you'll be able to get the governance right. If you get the governance right, you get the economics right. And let me quickly add this, we have to be very mindful before we begin to think about setting up modular refineries, all over the place. Reason being that oil is a depleting resource. And there's an international conspiracy to end fossil fuel production. As a matter of fact, there would have been funding, there would have been zero funding for fossil fuel production by multinational companies and banks at this time, if not for the war in Ukraine. They've already come up with the net zero carbon emissions 2050. And Nigeria was only asking, for it to extend to Nigeria by 2060. So the only reason why, fossil fuel production is still on, and then of course, we can try from that, is because of the war in Ukraine, and Western countries have seen that they are not quite ready there, yet. So we have to be very careful, mindful. By the time we think that to solve our problems is to provide more refineries for all our people, that may not help them at all.
Thank you. So, Dr. Dawari.
All right. We'll be careful in doing that. The modular refineries, I'll take it from where he stopped. We'll be very careful. But I still think that with the data that we have, with 150 years of gas reserves in River State and our non-participation in the economy of a resource that we have abundantly in our land, I don't see anything wrong with that. We need to take advantage of what we have to get the best that we can get for our people. The issues of environment, the issue of oil going, extinct and all that is secondary. The important thing is that it's an opportunity that we have also to invest, take the proceeds from there and invest in other sectors that will outlive the oil and gas economy. Again, on local government autonomy, the first challenge is local government leadership recruitment. If you observe, the way leadership in local government is recruited is like for the boys, whether you have capacity or not. The big men have taken at the federal level, they've taken at the state level, let them use the local government to compensate their boys. That is what we have experienced over the years. That's why they've not been able to add value to local government administration. Secondly, we will, if I'm governor, we will abolish state and local government joint projects. It is a ploy by state chief executives to siphon local government funds under the cover of joint projects. Allow the local governments run their projects, just like the federal government allows the state to run their projects. That will make a whole lot of difference. Again, you also, as a state, we can also help to raise the capacity of the local government administrations to deliver on their mandates. And that will require training, that will require exposure. If you get it right with the leadership recruitment, you will also get it right with people who are going to deliver on it. If you go to the Southwest, you see 60-year-old men, councillors. But when you come here, I'm not saying that it's wrong to have young people, but I'm saying that local government appears to be I'm sorry to say, with due respect, when everybody has taken, what is remaining, give to the boys. And then finally, I talked about the 23 local development centers for the 23 local governments. It should be the state intervention. The state can also begin to run pilot development programs and schemes in certain, in the local government areas, and use that also to challenge and use that to inspire the local governments to also do something. Because when the state goes there and begins to talk about what they are doing and the local government is unable also to talk about what they are doing with their own resources, it will also, expose the fact that they are not living to the expectation of people.
Thank you. Sayaba, what would be your position?
State budgets are created in accordance with the manifesto of the ruling party. And why this is because the people will hold you accountable because of the promises you have made during your elections. So we pray we get into that era where people keep their promises and do as they've said. Now, the local government is an arm of government, and if, like my brother already said, we can cut off this godfatherism and putting people in office in the local governments and literally telling them what to do. If local government elections are properly conducted, whereby the people actually elect these people, they would make promises while doing their elections, their campaign promises, and going by what you said, they'll be booted out if they don't keep to their promises. So I think, yes, I would support that greatly.
Thank you. So we shall be looking forward to a local government that is free to work for the people when either of you comes on board. That is something to look forward to. Now, an organ that helps propel governance is the media. In Rivers State, the history of government-owned media has not been a very good history. It has been one of more of neglect and control. You have already received the charter of demand from the NUJ, but beyond that charter, what is your own personal disposition towards government-owned media? I'll start with you, Dr. Dawari.
All right. Incidentally, I have so many family members who are there, so they come back home and they cry and they lament about poor working conditions. about, allowances, certain allowances that are not paid, incentives that are not there, so much of political interference with state-owned media, and they are not independent in many respects. One of the things we will do in charting a new course is, as much as possible, to give them some level of freedom to accommodate opposing views and also patronize news that is not from the state government. In other words, give them ability to commercialize some of their activities. If they commercialize their activities, they'll be able to compete favorably, because it's not as if the people in the state-owned media or the private media are better than those in the state-owned media. The problem is that there are too many encumbrances at the level of the state media, and they don't have that freedom to exercise their independence to deliver on that. Again, we will even begin to consider, the one key performance indicator to be how they accommodate dissenting views from opposition, views from non-government or non-state actors, in their So we'll be talking about training of their staff, training and welfare issues. We'll be talking about encouraging their independence. We'll also be talking about how they can generate funds for their own survival, because if we continue to wait on government subvention, we will not make any progress. We must give them some latitude, freedom to run like a proper media house, so that they can generate the funds that they need for their own expansion. And then there's no stopping them from getting extra allowances, hazard allowances, just like you have in the private sector. Those who are in government media are also entitled to that. And most importantly, we need to also provide new equipment. We need to provide digital equipment, modern equipment, and also get them the best of the kind of materials that they need, including the infrastructure. I'm talking of buildings and all that. The environment, work environment, is also key. For me, that is also important if we must deliver. When I talked about institutional framework, the media, state media, is one of the institutions that must be serviced for you to be able to deliver on government policies.
Thank you. Mr. Tekena, you talked very passionately about the civil service, and government-owned media is the civil service arm of the media. What will you do as the chief executive of Rivers State for government-owned media?
You see, the question you're asking doesn't just only concern the media, but literally every establishment that the government owns or runs suffers this same thing you're talking about. And there's certain government should run, their own outfits or businesses, but when you put certain people in charge of these affairs, things don't work. I mean, we must call a spade a spade. The government can have the facility to start a media house, but do they have what it takes to run the media house? As a business person, I would look for experts who would integrate with the existing structure and manage that media house. That's what I would do.
Thank you. What do you do?
Well, I think it's important for us to note that staff, especially for those of us in the private sector, are the most important components in the balance sheet. So you want to take steps to protect staff. First and foremost, when we look at the radio stations that we have, what is the state of those stations? We're talking about the civil service. We need to do upskilling. What is the work environment? These things are very, very essential, so that people feel that there is some dignity in the labor that they are offering. Now, you would also ask, these radio stations, and the press that we'll talk about, that are government owned, have they been able to say anything critical of the government? So what's their purpose? Is their purpose to protect the governor, right, or to protect the Rivers people? And of course, you protect the Rivers people by saying to them exactly what is the truth. So you can be critical even of government policies, government decisions. When you do that, you become competitive. Right now there are private, stations and all that. So you'll be competing, against all of that. You'll be competing against well-established, well-run places. So the first thing that you must do is to allow them to do their jobs properly so they are able to compete. That way they can retain their viewership, they can retain the patronage that they have, and then the revenues that come from there will help, in staff emoluments, will help in the provisions, for staff and basic, welfare. So I think that the problem that you will have is whether or not you see yourselves as watchdogs of society, or you see yourselves, as protectors of the persons who control the executive arm of government. The moment you become watchdogs of society, you become competitive, you become productive, and you will not be complaining as you're doing today.
Thank you very much. Now, we want to go to a very thorny issue. What makes Rivers State distinct is that it is an oil-rich state. And that means that it has extra allocation from the federal government because of that status. I'm talking about the 13% derivation. That money is supposed to serve to compensate communities for what they lose by hosting oil. Unfortunately, the state of oil communities is still as bad as it was before this idea came up. And some have raised issues because they do not see this money transforming lives in the communities. What are we going to expect differently from the incoming administration, from either of you when you come? Are we going to continue with what we have, where the sitting governor does what he likes with the money, or is this money going to finally get down to the people? I'll start with Mr. Tekena Iyaba.
Like you said, the 13% derivation fund is meant for the people. I've been proposing something and people keep asking me, how is that going to be done? I believe that aside from improving living conditions of these areas, the oil communities of River State in general, I believe that River State indigents, people that live in River State, are entitled to some sort of benefit. Their kids, unemployment benefits, elderly benefits, people with disabilities. I believe that this money belongs to the entire Rivers people. But governments that have come and gone have not done this. It's not just improving the environment. It will be, this money will go a long way in the lives of people. So that is what I would do with that 13% derivation fund.
Okay, Chief Duma.
Well, personalities, may I also remind us, no mumming, no humming, and no clapping. Thank you.
What is required of us at all times in governance is a good faith application of the rules. Once you do that, you eliminate all the suspicion. Now, 13% derivation gets down to the states and is intended to take care of oil-bearing communities in the states. Now, if you look at the relationship that we have kept with ourselves as Rivers people, we have always seen ourselves as one big Rivers family. So it will not have become a problem, right, if the funds were actually put in projects in any community in Rivers State. But how have we employed those revenues over time? And when you look at that, if you think that what we must do is to move away from the monocultural economy, of oil and gas as we have it, into diversification, into tech, agriculture, and tourism, then you find that every area of River State have a lot that they are putting on the table. I went to Ungo, and then I didn't see a story building. But then, that's in Andoni. And only recently we saw some elephants come out of the Andoni forest. Therefore, it tells you that if we properly harness our resources, Andoni itself would have been a major tourist attraction. And revenues coming from Andoni, if utilized in developing some other of our communities, would not have been an issue. So the most important thing is for us to begin to see ourselves as rivers people and think of how to expand the economy to accommodate all of us and take care of different things that will come from different areas. Some people will make contributions coming from agriculture, where you take on plantation scale mechanized farming. You can farm things like herbal plants in places like Okana. You can farm, cassavas, pineapples, oil mills, rice mills. There's so much that you can do. So when these things are happening in different areas and they are all productive and bringing revenues, you wouldn't even be thinking about how much is coming from, the 30% derivation. But there has to be transparency. Every penny that comes in has got to be accounted for. And the first thing will be to make sure that the public is aware of how much is coming.
Some states,
like Delta and so have this oil-bearing communities development commission, like we have the NDDC. I'm one person who believes that yes, that may work, but again, I'm also scared that creating more bureaucracy also eats into government revenue. Monies that will be used for development are used for overhead. That's why I don't really encourage, new government organizations to manage certain funds. If the proper thing is done within government, there is no way that you won't find an existing government agency to deal with the issue. Secondly, I also want to say that our overdependence on oil and gas, like my brother said, is also a challenge. And that's why we are suggesting that perhaps one way to deal with it so that no part of the state feels left out is to grow the agro-economy, the tech economy, the creative industry economy, the tourism economy. When we have all these things distributed across the state, perhaps there will be competition also. Everyone will want to maximize the potentials of that particular area of their strength, where they have comparative advantage, and there will be less concentration. But most important, 13% less concentration, but most importantly, it is because successive administrations have not managed that resource as it comes from the federal government well, and it has not been used equitably. Especially, it has also not benefited directly in special ways the oil-bearing communities. That is why people are talking about it this way. If they manage those resources very well, I doubt that it will be an issue we'll even be discussing today. So when we come in, we will get the people together to sit, to discuss on how best we can manage our resource. The people themselves must develop an agenda for dealing with this issue.
Thank you very much, Your Excellencies. At this point, I will go back to my colleague Shegun, who will take off from there. Thank you.
Your Excellencies, we want to sincerely thank you and appreciate you for giving answers to the questions. However, on the social media platforms, there are questions that are reoccurring. People are asking, what would you do with the blue economy of River State? Your Excellencies, would like to know in 3 minutes each, what's your blueprint for the blue economy of River State? And I'm going to start with candidate Boot Party.
We have our IGRA, we have other funds that come into the state, and we've been on this path for a very long time. And as a state, as blessed as River State, I ask myself, what have we generated aside these IGRs? We take taxes from people that have worked, but we as a state, we don't have any businesses. I believe and I think that the state should have a business. I don't know what name we'll call it eventually. This business would create its own refineries, would create its own plants. If you use, say, Element Petrochemical for an example, the Indorama. I remember when the present governor came into power and there were no funds, and he went to Indorama and took part of our 10%, I think some advance from the 10%, just the 10% that River State is entitled to. That was what carried the state till he got his allocation. And I'm thinking 10% can carry the state. Imagine what will happen if we as a state can own this refinery. Now, what do we do to own this refinery? We have the Indians managing this refinery. So we can actually have these refineries and get people to manage these refineries for us. Now, we don't do business as a state. As a state, we should even be participating in things like the LNG 27, where we should be able to have vessels that carry energy to Europe. We should be able to create industries in, we're known for fishing, we're the river state. By right, I'm thinking river state should be able to have we should be able to be shipping seafood items to Europe. If you look at